Welcome to another episode of Unrehearsed Research. I'm really excited to have Rick Wilson back with me today, and he's going to help me look at the Wilson line again. And we'll look at Seth Wilson, who I mentioned an episode or two ago, and see where we can get with him to see if he connects into my Wilson line. So, Rick, welcome back.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being back.
Good. Yeah, it's been so long, but it'll be great to look at these Wilson lines. You bring a lot of weight to the Wilson research, even though we're technically not related, but two Wilsons working on this together, we should make some progress. So this will be good.
Absolutely. I mean, I know how frustrating it can be to research a very common surname like Wilson and
Yeah.
what kind of works and what doesn't because of that very popular
Yeah,
surname.
that alone will be helpful. Yeah, that's great. Good. Well, so I'll share my screen here. Okay, I'll pull up my research project for Seth Wilson. And what I didn't tell you before we were kind of getting going was that I had done a little bit of looking at Seth Wilson last night in preparation for this call. And I ended up merging two Seth Wilsons on Family Search. And this was maybe the typical merge that often happens, which is the child Seth Wilson with his parents, and then the married Seth Wilson with his children. And it looked really strong coming together. So in my merge comment, I think I mentioned that that the father has a child named Rhoda, and then the other Seth had a mother named Rhoda, and so they were, that seemed like a strong reason to bring them together. So here's Seth Wilson with his daughter Rhoda, and then mother Rhoda as well. So that seemed like a nice connection between them, and then kind of place by place they line up really well going through. Turn off. Kind of into Iowa. So here's our, marriage and kind of earlier stages in Iowa. And then the later Seth was in Iowa as well, down into Davenport, Iowa. So
And
it seemed like a great merge.
this is Hughes or this is
This is Seth.
Seth. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And interestingly, and then I think you mentioned that you found a Seth Wilson on Ancestry, and maybe I found the same one, which is right here. So then this was the Seth Wilson that I found on some public member tree. And when I compared that to the Seth Wilson that I had, it was really well correlated. Actually, blue is Family Search here, green's Ancestry. And before, the Family Search tree had him born in Oneida County, New York. But then I looked back at the record, it was it was like an 1850 marriage or something that said he was from Dutchess County. So I fixed it in Family Search and put it back to Dutchess County. So
Yes,
between, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, because I think I saw some of those same family trees, and I think the Oneida birth comes from the fact that I think he lived in most census records, early ones in
Yes.
Oneida. And I think somebody just picked that up. But the trees that picked up that he was born in Dutchess is keying off of I think it's the 1855 New York State Census.
Oh,
Which
yes, that's what it
actually,
was. Yep.
yep.
Yep. Good. Okay. So yeah, between being born in Dutchess County, New York, which is where I believe my Wilsons are from, and then, being in that church group with Hugh in Iowa, they were in Adair County, but the fact that they're in that same church group seemed like, yeah, there's got to be something there, right? Either relative or friend or something. So, uh, and then as for a little bit more background, I bought this book on eBay that was it's called Children of the Peace. I think it's John McIntyre is a professor, and then this is a McGill Queen Studies in the History of Religion. So it's like this series of 14 books about different religious groups in Canada, and this one happens to be Children of the Peace, where the family all moved to as kind of this Quaker breakoff group. And as I just started thumbing through this, but when I looked at this, it looked like there's these two brothers from Ireland that come over, and one of them becomes the father or grandfather of David Wilson, who starts Children of the Peace. And this is like a really well documented line. And then this other brother from Ireland, I think, is the grandfather of my Wilson, Hugh, maybe grandfather, great grandfather of Hugh
Okay.
Wilson. And that's the less well documented line. So, possibly Hugh and Seth are cousins on that less well documented side or something like that, because I believe it's, they do talk briefly about being in Dutchess County and that the one side I think makes it to Canada sooner, and it seemed like the less well-known side comes later to Canada, to that religious group. So
Okay.
if that gives us any background or whatever, that's one thing to think about.
And I think it is interesting too, because I think having the surname Wilson being so common, it's a lot of times very difficult for people to accurately document, and so a lot of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you're seeing with your particular line. Even though there's plenty of records out there, I think that suggest more information about them, people are unable or uncomfortable with kind of putting them together because it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah, there's so much ambiguity that
That's
it's like,
right.
which one's mine? Yeah, yeah. On a side note, before I even kind of got into this book, I looked at the bibliography, and it's like, wow, the bibliography is like a great locality guide, because he's looked at so many records, original and published, about that place. So if I ever run out of anywhere to look, like that bibliography is like the checklist to go down and look. So that'll be good to come back to as well.
And one question for you, this book that you have, the with Children of the Peace, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that the same church that's in Iowa? Or
No,
is
it's not. Yeah, so it
okay.
was just a Quaker offshoot that I guess a lot of loyalists left the United States to go to Toronto area, Canada, and among them there were the breakoff group, David Wilson, who I think they were more into music, and Quakers didn't allow music, and so they broke off and they started a temple, and it's a Canada uh, historic place,
Okay.
and they were just there for maybe 80 years, like 1810 to 1890 roughly, and I don't think there was any Children of the Peace anywhere else except that community. So
Okay.
I think when he comes to Iowa, he's Methodist or something. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I think watching your last video where you discover Seth, I thought was just a great example of fan club research, of
Thank you.
finding something, looking for your own ancestors, finding something else that kind of fits in with it and expanding on it. And now you seem to have found a Wilson that ends up in the same county in Iowa and seems to be born in the same county where your Wilsons are from. So I think it's a really good, strong lead.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you validating that, because it was fun to look at that obituary that said they were early settlers of Adair County and go, wait a second, county histories, and then go look and find something about them. So thank you for saying that. So today, I guess we thought we might just look for more about Seth, right? Is that what we think? And just see what's the family connection in a Dutchess County. Could we find parents or
Yes,
grandparents or something? Yeah.
I think Seth seems like a very promising individual for what we've just talked about. And, one of the things that I like to do is, just see what kind of records are out there for an ancestor of interest. And despite Seth being a Wilson, which makes it very hard to research, he has a first name that is very unique,
Mm-hmm.
or less common, I should say. And I think that makes it possible that we can do a basic research, coupled with his birth location, and see what kind of records are out there, and see if there's other associations with your line or other people that you know about, or maybe even other Wilsons that can have even a stronger connection back to Dutchess County and your line.
Okay, cool. That'd be great. So do we want to jump in and just go kind of straight back on Seth for parents? This ancestry tree has no parents, and Family Search does. Actually, you told me you found someone on Ancestry that had a Solomon and Rhoda as the parents, and
Exactly.
it
So,
looks Family
after
Search does
watching
too. Yeah,
your video, I was so curious. I was like, who is this Seth Wilson? I was
yeah.
fired up to find out it as well. And so I literally just went on to Ancestry, went under search, and at the broadest level, I mean, I didn't even pick a record group. I just put in Seth Wilson, New York. I think I said 1809 was his birth year, and I just saw what I could discover. And
Okay.
one of the records that popped up, as you mentioned, was a marriage record for him in, I want to say, 1882 or 3. And it said he was born in New York, 73 years old at the time, and it listed his parents. And it was what you found in one of the trees on Family Search.
Yeah, okay, that is probably the same record that I saw on Family Search. So it was an 1883 marriage, or to 82, there it is. Yeah. And let's open that up. Yeah, and it's so great when people get married later in life because the records are just better.
Exactly.
So Seth Wilson, age 73, parents are Solomon and Rhoda. And this was cool too because it said that it was his third marriage. And once I merged those two together, the two Seths, then he had 3 marriages at that point.
Okay.
So that was good. So third marriage, and then yeah, his parents are Solomon Wilson and Rhoda Kelly. And I think, in fact, does it have Rhoda Kelly for his mother, or was it Rhoda Wilson? Oh, it's Rhoda Kelly. Good. Okay. So yeah, that was a great record to find. And then full name of the bride, Amanda Corey. Amanda.
Let's see.
Maiden name if a widow.
Okay, so Rudy, or looks like Rudy's your maiden name.
Okay. And then father Noah Rudy and Hassinger.
Yeah, Hessinger or something.
Hassinger. Witnesses. Okay. Yeah. So would you go next to sort of like jumping into Solomon Wilson to see?
I would like to see, I mean, I would probably do two things. I would look at other people's family tree. Does anybody have a family tree that includes children of Solomon and Rhoda? Or is Seth the only one that people have taken from this particular marriage record? And then I might look for Solomon in census records. And
okay,
just because
pretty unique name.
Yeah, a pretty unique name. I mean, it wouldn't be like searching for a John Wilson, which believe me, I've done that before and been very frustrated by it.
Yeah.
And the fact that Seth was born 1809 or 1810 suggests that Solomon would likely be around for an 1810 census.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great point. Okay, and then just to double check, yeah, no other children on the tree, on the family search tree. And then if I go to Solomon, no parents. And then do you remember if the ancestry tree you found had anything above Solomon?
I can't remember. I think that there was something that went a little bit further back for Solomon.
Okay.
On
Let me go ahead
Ancestry.
and search that. So you did ancestry.
And I think I don't know if I put in Seth first because he was probably more well documented, or at least he had a birth location, which makes it easier to find in trees.
So you did Seth Wilson and in like 1809 in Dutchess County.
And yeah, I think I might have just put New York just because sometimes that might distort. Comes back. Okay, there is. And the first one, yeah, and doesn't list parents. And I think I even looked at all of the 22 trees, and I don't think any of them had the father, which I thought was just.
Oh, yeah, that's surprising because
that's right.
He's there. Yeah.
So it makes me, it just reinforces the fact that Seth Wilson's line doesn't appear to be well documented, even though some of the information is out there.
Okay.
And it could be those that built these trees, they did so before this Iowa marriage record listing his parents was easily accessible.
Yeah, great point. Okay, so do you want to try an 1810 census search for Solomon?
Let's do that and just see if anything comes up. And you would think it should be Dutchess, although it's possible that, I think Seth married in Oneida, and so maybe the father could have moved at some point,
Yeah,
maybe
that's true.
at birth,
Okay.
but
So 3 Solomons, and I'll just sort of scroll down quick and
yeah,
come back, but then some New York cities, and then
there's nothing obvious.
yeah, I don't know New York well, but is maybe Otsego or Cayuga, or those are more upstate, I guess. Seneca's maybe more
Uh,
upstate.
I think that they're more upstate, either maybe even potentially even Western New York.
Okay.
My geography is very limited in the
Yeah,
counties
maybe
I've
I'm gonna
worked
pull
in.
up New York and then let's go to Google Maps. Okay, so let's say we're looking at Dutchess County.
Which
And that
is
may have been historically a much larger county, I suppose, right? It could have been that
it very well could have been, but it is
it's close.
close
Yeah,
to New York City, which there was a couple Solomons there, which it it doesn't strike me that that would be the same one, but
but
one
maybe. Yeah, okay. So Dutchess County, New York. And then what if I go family search wiki on that one, just to get a historical sense of how big this was?
there
Would
is
the Atlas of Historical County Boundaries be a better map actually of this?
mouse is there's something under for an animated illustrations of boundary changes. I don't know if that's the one website I'm thinking of, but there is one website that
Hmm.
really allows you to see how the counties change over time. If we click on, like I always look for 18, I would look for 1810, something close to that in
Okay.
1809.
Oh,
There's
so even by then it's pretty
pretty
similar
big.
to today. Is that right?
Yep. And
Okay.
then I would look at, just out of curiosity, 1809 versus 1810. I don't
Hmm.
think it doesn't really change yet. Dutchess looks like it's
Okay.
pretty well formed.
Pretty solid. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we're like a little closer to New York City, aren't we? So there's Queens, there's New York County.
I mean, it could be misspelled somehow.
Yeah.
Um, Solomon, as you found when you were researching Seth, sometimes looks like an L, the S. So,
Okay.
I mean, who knows what it could be, but I'm wondering if there's nothing obvious for 1810, could we find something in 1820?
Hmm. Okay, I'm gonna go
Um,
up to my little thing to go to 1820. 3 Solomons.
it's not making it easy for us. Let's put it that
No,
way.
yeah, that's well said. Yeah. I could do Ancestry as well. I don't know if that's worth a shot to just see if it's different.
I think it's worthwhile because I have found that in some cases Ancestry is better. In some cases, I found Family Search to be better in terms of how it's indexed.
I do like how if we go into Ancestry, we could choose Dutchess County and then say surrounding counties or whatever. And I don't have to know all the counties of New York off the top of my head.
That's right.
Wilson, and then lived in, and those may be the same 3 that we saw.
Seneca and Columbia. I wonder where those are in with respect to Dutchess.
Oh, it looked like it was just one up, I think.
It looks like it's one up.
50 miles, yeah.
And
And then the other one was Seneca.
Seneca. And I think that one is definitely more Western,
Okay,
I think.
you're right. Good call. Okay.
So that one in Columbia, I mean, who knows where Hillsdale is within Columbia, and we don't know where in Dutchess they were. They could be
Yeah.
bordering
Yeah,
for all we
true.
know. I might want to just look at that record, and I just want to see who his neighbors are.
Oh, great. Yeah, good thought.
I don't like when they're alphabetized, but
Yeah. Don't see the neighbors.
that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So
And
Solomon Wilson.
and he does have, looks like, a young son.
You're remembering these columns better than I am, but it's is it it'll
These
be
ones aren't
males
really
and then
labeled,
females. Yeah.
and I think the first column is typically like 0 to, I don't know if this is 1810 is to 10 years old or 5, but that's
Usually
where
youngest to
expectancy.
oldest, and then
Yeah.
the second set would be the women. So 3 young girls in the
Mhm.
home, and then maybe his wife is there.
Yep.
Okay.
And when was your Hugh born, by the way? 1798. So it could be the 1810 census we're looking at. And this is theoretical, obviously, but he does have an older son. That older son could be Hugh, theoretically,
Yeah.
but too early to conjecture that. But it's it's interesting.
Oh, and you know what? We do have, I say we're looking for Hugh's parents, but he has a late marriage record where he says that at age 79, he says his parents are William and Wilson and Hannah. So the problem with this family search tree as it stands is that this is a William and Susanna from England,
Okay,
but is as I think that intermixed in this profile is like a correct person. Like if I come into sources of this father for him and I skip over all these England ones, I think a couple of these sort of Canada ones are correct in the sense that this is the marriage record for Hugh that says that Hugh's father was William and mother was Hannah. And so I think
okay.
that part's right. And so, and even actually, and funny enough, if I go into his father now, Hugh Wilson, this is, I think, the lesser known brother that I mentioned before that moved from Ireland. So it's like this, the William in between the two Hughes is very mixed up with a lot of
Okay.
English records merged in. But it might be that this Hugh is right. So it could be that Hugh, William, Hugh is the correct three generations for them. And so maybe Seth Solomon is like, yeah, like a cousin or whatever.
Very well could be.
Maybe Solomon's a son to this Hugh that came from Ireland.
One thing that kind of sticks out in my head is like what I want to know a little bit more about Seth um, and Solomon is the fact that the naming conventions between the two families, like your family, I remember some of the children's names. I don't remember seeing a Seth or a Solomon.
Right. That's
So,
true.
and you just reminded me that Hugh, in a later marriage, just like Seth's later marriage, identified his father, assuming that's
Mhm.
both of them are correct. So they would have to be cousins, probably not brothers. And they may even be totally unrelated, but the Solomon and Seth don't fit in with the naming patterns
Yeah,
don't
that's
seem
a great
familiar to
point.
me. And I've done enough research to know that naming patterns sometimes reinforce what you're kind of discovering, but I almost feel like it doesn't exclude at the same level because
Okay.
we all in our family trees have different examples of where a certain line just didn't follow existing, family names. Where does your Dutchess County connection come from, Hugh? Does he say that at some point?
Oh, great. So why do we know that? Yeah, great point.
Because at least I'm hanging my hat pretty heavily on the fact that Seth was born in Dutchess.
I guess we know that about Hugh because okay, we have a New York birth, and maybe I don't know that directly from his own records, but just that we know that the more well-known side of the Wilson family has a
Okay,
side in Dutchess,
connected.
and yeah,
And
and
then the community where the well-known Wilsons are from, is that anywhere near Columbia County where Solomon
oh,
was?
great,
I mean,
yeah,
could
let's go look at that.
the well-known Wilson side when they lived in Dutchess, right?
Oh, right, okay, yep.
And I'm wondering if the community, the religious community that they resided in, I wonder where that was within Dutchess County, and would it be conceivable that if Solomon was related, either attended the same church or genetically related, that it would be logical that he would have moved, you know, to the neighboring county.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
is their sphere of influence?
I think it's in the book, and I could take a moment to find it, but I think it's also on Wikipedia under David Wilson. So let me pull it up that way to just
Okay.
give you. Okay, religious and political leader who founded the Quaker sect known as the Children of Peace, and born on his parents' rented farm on the Nine Partners Grant in Dutchess County, New York. I think that's as much as I've seen that narrows it
Okay.
down inside of Dutchess County. Was a land grant in Dutchess County made in 1697. The parcel included about 4 miles along the Hudson River and about 8 to 10 miles wide, extending from the Hudson River to the Connecticut border.
Maybe that's something to look in so that we know exactly where that is. And because one thing that I love doing, and I don't know if, and I know we may be going down a rabbit hole with Seth, but to me, I think it's a worthwhile rabbit hole to go into, just because they're members of the same church in Iowa. There's this Dutchess County connection that may be coincidental or maybe something more. And I feel like it's a worthwhile rabbit hole to go down to. And I would look, if I could, and if Family Search has New York land deed records there, I would wonder if, did Solomon own land?
Hmm.
And could we figure out where did he buy it in both the Dutchess County and Columbia County? And then did he end up in Oneida County where Seth was married? And like, I would want to see if we can trace him back to Dutchess County and where he resided there. Maybe there's even tax records that might place him in Dutchess County in a particular location. And then if there's other Wilsons there,
Okay, yeah, I
I
like
feel
this.
like there's something there to be learned from a documentary perspective.
Yeah, let me open up the Family Search catalog and let's see if we have Dutchess County. Yeah, do you like tax or land first?
Um, it depends on how easy either one of them is to search.
Yeah.
Tax records, depending on what's available, sometimes list personal property as well as land ownership. So you're more likely to find somebody there that didn't own land because they might have personal property. Um,
Okay, great point.
but
So do
depending on
we,
the tax list when available,
yeah. So we're thinking maybe the 1810 period or 1800.
at least 1809, somewhere, because we know he was born there supposedly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like tax records exist.
Yeah, that's too bad. Okay. So should we go to land record then?
Yeah, let's see what they have.
And whoops, here we go.
I would probably go with the third group down, the one, yeah, because usually if it says the county's name there, they probably actually
That's
have
the
the
official. Okay.
yeah. And let's see what they look like. I would start with a grantor record index,
Okay.
and we'd want, what is it, W?
Grantor and U to Z.
And the reason I start with grantor is because if he owned land, he likely had to sell it. And sometimes when they acquire land is not always so clear cut because he could have inherited it, which may not necessarily show up
Uh,
with the land records, or it may have been through the state. And so there's sometimes that's not always documented or documented in the places you'd like that seem obvious to us.
that's a good thought. Do you like the search too, since it's offered? Or do you just go ahead and skip that?
I mean, if it's there, I would love to try to see if it works. And I'm seeing a lot of land assessments in 1900s, so I don't know how
Hmm,
far back things are indexed, at least
great
from
point.
the searchable.
Okay, so let's go back over to here.
I like to click on the first page that you can, that one, just to see how they're organized. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. So is this a
I mean, just because it's the letter U,
UL?
there's usually not many surnames begin with U, but it looks like it is kind of based by surname. And I'm not seeing an index, at least in the front of the book. Maybe there's one in the back of the book that,
Yeah, I'm so curious why we jumped into the front and it's a U.
oh, there it is.
Oh, here we go.
And there's V. So W should be, it may be in a separate volume. If you could scroll down. Now the next page, I imagine if there's no W. So then I would go back and look at when you can see all the pages at once and just scroll down until you see either a natural break or another volume. There, okay, there's a
There's
W.
W. Okay.
And is that,
So is it saying second letter? So W and then
yeah, so WI
WI is,
and
and
then
then L,
so 2472
2472. Okay.
and
So, and I'm
I
looking for a
just,
page number that's, oh yeah,
yeah,
2420. Okay.
and now you can do something a little bit more strategic. And then I just
Okay.
start jumping because they're not necessarily, sometimes they have the same page number more than once.
Oh yeah, 2430 is
Yeah.
multiple of those. Okay.
So I might jump up to five, yeah, something
Okay.
like that.
Hey, okay,
There
there's
hey, look,
2472. Okay.
see, there you go. But that's
There.
probably what year are we in? That's it.
Yeah, so we're
Eight.
1889.
But it looks like we're at WILL, or so maybe Wilson is going to come after Williams as it normally does. So maybe go
Is
up by,
it
try 705.
okay?
And we're still in Williams. So yeah.
There's a Wilson. Wilbur Wilson. Okay, maybe those are the
And now I'm seeing, okay, so I just noticed that I see a 1906 date.
oh right. Are you wondering
We
if they're
might
by
want
dates
to
first?
find where 2472 really begins.
Okay.
And can you blow up that page just a little bit?
Yeah.
Look in the corner, there's a number right below 2472. I see 26. That may be the 26th page. I don't know.
Ah, okay.
But
Let's go back to 60.
let's see what it,
Yeah,
okay.
that was right. So let's go back to 655.
Okay.
Yeah, there's page number 1 of
Okay.
2472. Oh yeah, and here's our early dates.
And we're looking for a Solomon.
18. Yeah, Solomon. So yeah, I could start even. Yeah, I should be looking for Solomon. You probably
It should
already
be in
were.
this.
Okay, so the
Right now we're at 1817.
hmm,
So it's probable that he maybe didn't own land.
okay.
So that just, to me, that would be something I would put in my research log, that we at least looked for land the grantor index, that at least between the beginning, which was in the 1700s, through the, looks like 1820, not seeing anything. Now, what would be interesting to know, and you have this already pulled up to here, and I know Goldie May allows you to save links and items. I would love to save this link if for no other reason you decide to come back here and look for William, who you think is Hugh's father.
Yeah,
You can immediately jump to this page and find relevant William Wilson selling land in Dutchess County.
that's a great thought.
Something that can be, if you ever come across any abstracts of early land deeds or abstracts of even will records, because they often, depending on who did the abstract, sometimes you can find a Solomon Wilson mentioned as a
Okay.
witness or receiving something from somebody else, and that can kind of begin to help you situate him in a time and a place, and even with a certain fan club. I mean, we didn't find relevant tax records. We didn't find relevant land records. I think we could maybe try to cast a wider net here in Dutchess. The only other place that I would potentially look at is, because we saw the Columbia, I wonder if there's any land or tax records there that can potentially help us, track that Solomon.
Mhm. Great thought. Pull up Columbia. All right, no tax records, and then
There's the deeds.
okay, grantors index, surnames U through Z.
This one doesn't seem to have
Oh,
it.
here's our U's again, right? Here's
Maybe,
a
yeah. And I'm not seeing that, but
we just jump ahead to
yeah, see if we can find W's in those are corporations. So we might have gone too far. So maybe try 300 corporations again.
so you're saying that corporations might be completely after all the individuals?
I've seen them typically when they have a separate section of the book.
Okay.
And is this
So our V, are we Van Ness now? Here's 250. Oh, I hit next, but there was Wilson. So let me go
yeah,
back.
I saw that too as
Okay.
you did that. What is the time frame we're looking at it?
So we're
Does
yeah,
it
we're
say
to
17 or
1920.
19?
I'm seeing 19.
So what
So yeah, so
this
we
they may, I don't know, again, I don't know how many books they have. They might have separated the early ones in one book or volume and then the later ones in another, or there's different sections. So
okay. We do a
again,
big jump back.
either a big jump or do the small images again to see
Hmm.
if you see any natural breaks that look like that's where
Like
you
that one. I
are.
mean, that's later, but let's see what the break says. So grantor, oh, corporation. So you were right. That was later.
And then yeah, just do another jump to something and see what we find.
Right here's 1803,
And this are
10.
W's.
Oh, great. That's a lucky jump.
Yeah. What is interesting, I'm noticing it looks like some of these might actually be indexed, but yet I don't remember seeing the actual search icon of the document.
Yeah, maybe I should have looked at that better before I jumped in.
I wonder, like right now we're at 2453. I wonder if Columbia is going to be the same as Dutchess and it'll be 2472,
Ah, great thought. Okay.
which I mean,
You may be right because it's going through the 19th and 20th centuries for the WHs. Hey, there's a
and there's that says Williams though.
yeah, Wilson
So
on that side. And so go
what year are we at? It looks like is that
1829,
1917?
1796.
Okay.
Go back.
So that's the first page. Yep. And I would concentrate on the column that has where Solomon should be rather than the surname. Because
Oh, now that we're in the right ballpark.
yes. And then
Yeah.
so I'm not
Okay, so you're
seeing
just looking in this column right here.
yes. Because
Okay,
then if I see a Solomon, then I'll look over and see what last name it has.
great thought. Okay, so then I'll come here and go, yeah, here. Hey, Solomon Jr.
Wilbur.
Wilbur. You're right. That's a much faster way to do it then. There's a Solomon Wilson.
Is it?
Yeah.
And 1822. Then is that saying his wife's name? I don't know who the Polly is.
Polly. Wife. Wife and then grantees.
And he's selling it to Ezra Gardner. So I would, I mean, I wouldn't think Polly's a nickname for Rhoda, but he could have remarried for all we know.
Yeah,
If
true.
this is the same one. And
Oh, me.
before
Oops.
you jump ahead or I think what are you copying that to the,
Yeah, I was just gonna take a little screenshot of this
good.
line, but okay, yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, I didn't know if you were going to jump immediately to looking up that record. What is it? L538, book L538. I would just go a couple more pages to see maybe he sold it, had multiple sales.
Good thought. Okay.
How far we go, I'm not sure. If we knew how long he was in um, Columbia County, there was a Solomon Wilbur.
Solomon Wilbur. Okay.
But it would be interesting if we see, I don't know if he potentially dies here or he moves somewhere else, but that one record we found could be where he moves. I'm just guessing here, maybe to Oneida, where his son marries Emily Webster.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now we're in what, 1850s?
Yeah, and like I would probably stop here not knowing anything more about Solomon, but at
Okay.
least we found something. And it would be interesting to look up that record.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do that.
And you could just, if you, yeah, it was book L, I think.
Yeah. Book L 538. So that one then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And 538, I would jump to like 300.
Okay.
And see if we can read the page number.
Oh, yeah, we're very close. 541.
Nice. Yeah,
For you.
I think right there, this indenture made under between Solomon Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Solomon Wilson of the town of Chatham County. Oh, is that
Which I
right?
think that's where he
Town of
was, we
Chatham,
found.
County of Columbia, State of New York. Probably his wife of the first
First part, probably.
first part. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. And Ezra Gardner of the second part.
Okay, then I kind of skipped through the first read down to the part where it says all that certain piece right there.
Oh, right there. All that. Certain
Parcel
piece of
plans
parcel.
because now it's going to potentially mention neighbors and maybe when he bought it. I'm looking for
You're
names or
skipping.
geographical features.
Okay.
Then it's going to say typically it might say when he bought it and who he bought it from. It sometimes says
Mhm.
being the same piece of land that it doesn't say it, but let's go to the next page.
Okay.
This is to me all the legalese in the receipt of
Let me
money,
come
but it
down to
doesn't
here.
say like when he bought it, but obviously that's what I would next look for, which might help to establish timelines. And then I'd look to see who the witnesses are. Because these are the ones, they were the ones selling it. Typically, the witnesses are one of three types. The witnesses are either going to be somebody Solomon and Polly knew, or it could be one of the justices of the peace or their wife or brother or something like that, or it could be somebody that is associated with who bought the land. But typically it's more associated with a person selling. And if you scroll down just a little bit further, we'll see who the recorder was. T. Hogue. Okay, so that to me, because looks like the recorder and can you go back now to the bottom of the previous page? I don't know if it mentioned they look like they are people that might have known both Polly and Solomon. So they might
Okay.
be really
Good
good fan
buyers.
club
Good
network.
sellers. Yeah. Okay.
They could be just neighbors, or they could be something greater. But what I would probably do now is obviously we have this saved. I might look for when he bought the land. Usually when you buy the land, it doesn't mention your wife. It does when you sell the land, but it
Oh,
might
okay.
establish when he arrived Columbia County, potentially from Dutchess County.
May have mentioned that he moved.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. Usually when you look at when somebody's selling land, at least when I do most of my research in Pennsylvania, they usually say this land was previously acquired by from this person, and here's the book and reference number. But we might have to go back to the land records and look at the grantees and look for when Solomon bought the land.
Okay.
And that just might give us another data point. All this just to help us out potentially understand who this Seth is and maybe where he comes from, people who he's associated with, so that we can see if his fan network spreads out across Hugh's network. And then when we start going into the DNA, are any of these names, locations, or anything like this familiar to us?
Yeah, this is great, Rick. This seems like a good place to take a break if that sounds good to you, because we've got some leads. Maybe we need to process it more, but we're inching along, aren't we, toward who was Seth and who was Solomon?
Yes, I think we definitely made some really good progress, at least situating them in a certain time and place. And I think once we flesh out Seth a little bit more, maybe even build out his family tree a little bit, so we recognize some of the surnames, and we can go and look at your autosomal DNA matches to see if we can easily discover a genetic connection.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Rick, for coming on today. And then we'll reconnect again in the future to keep moving forward.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot, Richard.